President Biden visiting CJ's Cafe in South LA this week with LA Mayor Karen Bass. He spent 3 days in the Golden State raising millions for his re-election campaign. He talked a lot about Trump during the trip, but didn't talk at all about the Democratic opponent he's currently running against. That's this guy. Dean Phillips is a Democratic congressman from Minnesota, challenging President Biden for the Democratic nomination. Welcome to The Issue
It is good to be here.
So for folks that may not have seen you on that much media, because for some reason a lot of media aren't paying attention to you, who are you and why are you doing this?
Who am I and why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a Gold Star son. I lost my dad in the Vietnam War when I was 6 months old. And I got lucky because when my dad was killed, my mom was 24 and widowed, and she remarried a wonderful man 3 years later, and I was adopted into a great family. And I don't think it should be a stroke of good luck or being born in the right zip code in America that determines where you end up. And I'm watching the 2016 election with my family after a career in business, Belvedere vodka, Talenti gelato. At least I know what Americans like, I gotta tell you, Alex. And I'm watching the 2016
Alcohol
election.
and ice cream.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm watching the 2016 election, and probably like most of those in California watching this right now, I was shocked. I was shocked by the outcome. I'd taken it for granted. I thought our government was in good hands. I thought our country was in good hands. But what really jarred me is waking up the next morning to the sound of my youngest daughter crying in her bedroom. She was 16. She had just overcome Hodgkin's lymphoma. She's a gay woman. I didn't know that when she was 16. But I saw fear in her eyes that changed me as a father. I promised my two daughters at the breakfast table that morning I would do something. And I ran for Congress. I flipped a district in Minnesota that had not elected a Democrat since 1958, beat a guy who had won by 14 points, by 12, flipped it by 26, and got to Congress thinking we could change things, only to discover that it is so utterly dysfunctional, but so fixable. And that means we got to work together. And I ran for Congress to resist Donald Trump. I was trapped in the House chamber on January 6th because of Donald Trump. And he's returning to the White House this November because Joe Biden cannot beat him. And in the absence of anybody with the courage to stand up with more name recognition than I to run in this race, your own governor, Vice President Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, many others, someone had to do it. The president wouldn't step aside, others wouldn't enter the stage, and in America, when it's time to meet the moment, somebody has got to do so, and that's why I'm doing this. And it's been a joyful, optimistic, very hopeful journey, and I just simply am glad to be introduced to people because in the absence of platform, it ain't easy. So why are you convinced that he can't win? Because if you look at a lot of the polls, it's really competitive right now. There are scenarios where Trump is ahead, but I mean, it's close. Why are you so confident that he can't pull this off? Well, Alex, it's only close on a national basis. Maybe a couple points Trump, a couple points Biden, but we have an electoral college. We have 7 battleground states in which Joe Biden is losing in every single one right now. He was never behind in 2020. He's losing in every one right now. And his approval numbers are literally at historic lows as measured in this last century. 5 points behind where Trump was at the same time, 18 points below where Jimmy Carter was in January of 1980. Presidents don't recover from that. The worst is what people are seeing on their screens. He's a good man. I respect the president. I campaigned for him. I passed his legislation. I admire him. He was probably the only Democrat that could win in 2020. He is probably one of the only ones that will lose in 2024. That's what the data says. His decline is real. And the more he's encapsulated and kept from the public, the more people are going to realize they'd rather side with a strong man who lacks character and competency than a man in decline. And that's the problem right now.
So is there any policy difference between you and President Biden? Is there anything you do differently in the job, or is it mostly just a style and you're younger?
Well, I mean, that is an element.
Yeah.
I'm another generation. I'd be the first Gen X president in the United States history. I was not born in the 40s. I was born in 1969. I have a different worldview. As a son who lost a father in the Vietnam War, a meaningless, disastrous war for both the U.S. and Vietnam, I believe in peace. I believe America should lead with peace. I'm a Democrat who will tell you the southern border is an unmitigated disaster. You know that in California. It's embarrassing, it's unmitigated, it's inexcusable, and Democrats should own it. It's been so for decades. I believe in something called American Dream Accounts, where we should be investing in kids in ways we've never done before in this country. $5,000 in an investment account to every baby born in America. It would grow over time. In high school and elementary school, they'd have an app on their phone to follow their portfolio. They'd learn entrepreneurship, financial management. And then as an incentive to graduate high school, these kids would get a $20,000 nest egg to start their lives, become owners of this economy, help repair injustices of the past, reduce our social safety nets. And in California, you spend $100,000 per capita on inmates, everybody incarcerated in the state, $100,000. Why are we not a country that takes a little bit of that money, invests in kids upstream so that we save money and save lives downstream? Joe Biden, a good man. Donald Trump, not a good man. These are not people who are going to be able to address the issues facing the future. Artificial intelligence, the disruption to our economy, social media regulation, war and peace around the world. It's time for new leadership, new generation, and new perspectives.
I mean, you've talked about the polls with Joe Biden, and the polls for you are pretty tough. I mean, there was voting in South Carolina. He got 96% of the vote. There's a poll we want to show, an Emerson poll of California voters of Democrats. We got the primary in people voting now.
Sure.
Joe Biden at 75, you at 9. What is the path for victory? And if there isn't a path for victory, is there a moment where you say, me being in this race is hurting the eventual Democratic nominee?
First of all, the only person making it easier for Donald Trump right now is Joe Biden. He made a terrible mistake to run again. He implied years ago that he'd serve one term. All of my colleagues in Congress expected that. He's preventing a whole new generation of Democrats from rising, having an energetic, thoughtful competition that creates energy and excitement. And yeah, the polls for an unknown member of Congress, by the way, it's easy to become known in politics right now. You just got to be a total jerk. Think about it. Yeah. I was the vice chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus. I was a member of the House Democratic Leadership Team. I'm a workhorse, not a show horse. And it's not surprising that people don't know my name yet. Plus, we have a Democratic Party that is not wanting competition, that is deplatforming, limiting ballot access. So to answer your question directly, my intention is to accrue delegates, and I will. Got 20% in New Hampshire. But I'm introducing myself to the country, and it is my belief that come June, July, when we have head-to-head polls, me against Donald Trump, Joe Biden against Donald Trump, the country will see we can either coronate a candidate of the past who's going to lose, or we can nominate a candidate for the future who can win and work in a common sense, bipartisan, reasonable fashion that the country desperately needs right now. So that's my contention, is get to know me, I'll get to know you, we'll see what happens come August.
So you stay in this until August, is what you say?
Have to. This is a campaign of principle.
Yeah.
It's to demonstrate to our children and their children that in America, you got to meet the moment. Don't let a political party tell you what you have to do. Don't stand in line. Don't be quiet. Don't shut up. Do just the opposite. And that's what I'm doing.
What's the sort of meanest thing that somebody said to you behind the scenes?
Well, behind the scenes, I probably don't know. You know, I'll tell you, Alex, I was a darling 4 months ago amongst my colleagues. To some, I become the devil for simply having the audacity to practice democracy. I am a thoughtful, reasonable, decent, compassionate, strong person. When people accuse me of things very personal, it troubles me. There have been some that have tried to attack me in very personal ways that anybody who's a human being would be affected by. But that also comes with the territory. And the fact of the matter is, I think people are more upset with themselves right now for being so focused on self-preservation and not focused on principle that I'm an easy attack line.
You mentioned Governor Newsom. Do you think he's a coward for not running?
I don't think he's a coward, but I got to tell you, he's campaigning as hard as I am. And I would just say, why not, Mr. Governor, enter the race? In fact, I saw him in South Carolina. He's a very able leader, obviously. I don't believe he can win a national election, but that's beside the point. Yes, I wish he had entered the race. I told him when I saw him in South Carolina that he should have entered the race, because that would have demonstrated the kind of person, the kind of party that we should be, and I wish he had taken that step.
And what did he say to you?
He smiled.
Yeah, that was that.
He smiled.
Yeah, so you made a little bit of news this week. You talked about this idea that you may be open to running on a unity ticket with Nikki Haley, with you both running for president and vice president. Why is that? How would that work?
Well, first of all, I'm a proud Democrat, and that's why I'm running as a Democrat. I'm not running as an independent. I'm not Cornel West or Jill Stein or RFK Jr. I want to try to reform our party from the inside and demonstrate possibility. With all that said, my mission is to defeat Donald Trump. Joe Biden will not, in my estimation. So I think it's smart for all of us to keep our hearts and minds open to other ways that we might accomplish that. Nikki Haley and I are the last two people standing between a Trump and Biden rematch. 70% of the country doesn't want that. 86% of the country believes that Joe Biden is too old to serve until 2029. So what I said yesterday in that radio interview is, if the country was interested in a unity ticket, one Democrat, one Republican, reasonable, common sense, willing to work together to demonstrate what this country is capable of. Why wouldn't I consider that? And frankly, why wouldn't she? But at the end of the day, I will not do anything that makes it easier for Donald Trump to return to the White House. I will only try to defeat him.
Who's president, who's vice president in that scenario?
I think the truth is, I mean, if you're being objective, you'd need someone to peel votes from the Republican nominee, who's going to be Donald Trump, and that would probably put her in the top of the ticket and probably me as VP. And by the way, whatever role I can serve, generic Democrat, VP, outside instigator, someone has to wake this country up to reality. But most importantly, Alex, I would encourage people to vote in the primary.
Yeah.
It's not about me, it's not about Nikki Haley, it's not about Donald Trump or Joe Biden. It's about people getting out of their homes or using your mail to vote in primary elections. We're turning the country over to the far right and the far left, and the power is still in the hands of people if we execute it.
So you think that running as Nikki Haley's vice president is more helpful to the country than supporting Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee?
Well, the data says Joe Biden can't win. That's my contention. People can look objectively at it. Now, MSNBC will tell you something differently. MSNBC has only had me on once in 4 months.
Yeah.
They don't want to introduce me to the country. So if you listen to MSNBC, Twitter world, you would think that Joe Biden is positioned to win. Well, he's not. He's going to lose. So if me being on another ticket would help defeat him, by all means would I consider it. But no, right now I'm running to make the case first to Democrats that we have an alternative that I think will be better positioned to win. That's what I'm going to do first. And all I'm saying is we should all keep our hearts and minds open to potential ways to defeat him if it's clear that Joe Biden can't.
Very interesting. So here on our show, we do something fun called Personal Issues. This is rapid fire, 30-second get to know you, because we got to get to know you, right? That's the point of this. These are cultural favorites. First thing that comes to mind, sort of one-word answers. All right, ready? What's your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show was The Odd Couple.
Ooh, favorite movie?
We're talking about VP and president.
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption.
Okay. Favorite book?
Favorite book is 1776.
Very nice.
And Night, and Elie Wiesel's Night.
Favorite musical artist or band?
The Replacements.
Who's your favorite athlete?
My favorite athlete is still Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Got it. Even though I'm a Minnesotan, that's really hard to say about a Chicago Bull. But yeah, Michael Jordan.
Who's your role model?
My role model is my mother.
Why is
my mother
that?
is an extraordinary survivor. Lost her husband, my dad, in Vietnam. Remarried a wonderful guy, an entrepreneur herself, a woman of compassion and strength and decency. Taught me about business, taught me about life, and someone that I look up to every single day.
So we always end with music on this show, and so we thought, why not end with your music?
Oh, with my music?
This is you
I love
singing
it.
Shallow. What's the story with this?
Okay, so my wife, Annalise, is a trained musician, went to school in L.A., a vocalist, and we do a little bit of, this is at our farm in Virginia. I love it.
Very nice.
Now, she's the talent. I'm obviously the politician.
All right, well, listen, one more time. Here they are. Thanks for coming in, Congressman Dean
Alex,
Phillips.
thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Appreciate it.
In the shadow.